They say women want a good man, a kind man, a man who listens, shows up, texts back fast, and always makes her feel wanted. But let me ask you something real. If that's true, why does the guy who barely tries end up haunting her mind? Why is it the quiet one? The one who doesn't chase, who never overshares, who looks at her like he's seen it all before. Why is he the one she can't stop thinking about? The truth? Most women aren't addicted to attention. They're addicted to tension. And the man who knows how to withhold his words, his emotions, his presence is the one who makes her feel something no nice guy ever will. In this video, I'll show you exactly why that happens and how to become the man who doesn't need to try hard because his very presence already does all the work. This isn't about playing games. It's about mastering control. Stoic control. So if you're done being the man who gives too much and gets too little in return, hit subscribe now. Let's talk about why the man who acts like he's nothing becomes everything in her mind. Number 1. Stop proving yourself, let her wonder. You don't need to prove anything. That's the first truth most men never, harlot alone, believe. From the moment we're young, we're taught to win approval. Be nice, be impressive, get her attention, say something clever, make her laugh, show her you're the one. But the man who keeps trying to prove himself is already losing, because every time you try to show her how great you are, you're admitting without saying it that you're not sure. And if you're not sure, why should she be? Here's the thing. Women aren't drawn to the guy who lays all his cards on the table too soon. They're drawn to the man who leaves just enough mystery. The man who doesn't need to explain who he is. He knows. And his silence, his restraint says more than his words ever could. That kind of man doesn't chase. He doesn't convince. He lets the room come to him. And she will. Because when a woman meets a man who's not trying to impress her, it messes with her expectations. She's used to guys bending over backwards for attention. She's used to flattery, validation, compliments. But when she meets a man who seems like he doesn't care whether she likes him or not, she leans in. That's when curiosity kicks in. It's not arrogance. It's calm. It's what the Stoics called self-containment. You don't need outside validation to feel like you're enough. You already are. You don't seek her approval, you observe her energy. You let her reveal herself. And when you're that grounded, it shows. In your eyes, in your tone, in how you move, how you listen, how you speak, without trying to dominate. She'll test it. She'll try to throw you off balance. Maybe with sarcasm, maybe with silence. Maybe she'll act like she's not interested just to see if you flinch. Don't. Let her wonder. Let her think, does he even like me? Why isn't he trying harder? What's going on in his head? Because the moment she starts asking those questions, you've already created the kind of tension that most guys never will. Nice guys, on the other hand, try too hard. They smile too wide, compliment too much, lean in too far. They perform. And while that might get a polite reaction, it rarely sparks anything deeper. Here's the rule. If she already knows you want her, the game's over before it begins. But when she doesn't know, when there's ambiguity, when you show up like you've got a full life, full confidence, full peace, without needing her to fill a gap, that's when you become the one she thinks about after you're gone. You want to create attraction? Don't try harder. Pull back. Let her feel the absence of effort. Let her feel your calm. Let her see that you're a man who doesn't need to win because you already walk like you've won within. The most attractive energy you can bring isn't excitement. It's stillness. It's the man who speaks less, smiles slowly, moves with clarity. It's the man who holds his own space and makes her wonder what's behind the curtain. And that's not a game. That's power. It's the power that comes when you've mastered your own validation, when you don't need attention to feel alive, when you don't treat women like goals to achieve but like humans to observe, feel, and maybe invite in. Or maybe not. Because here's the kicker. When you no longer need her to pick you, you've already picked yourself. That's the man she can't look away from. If that hits, and you're ready to stop proving and start being, drop this in the comments. I choose calm. Now, stay locked in. What you'll hear next explains why uncertainty, not clarity, is what actually fuels a woman's obsession. Number 2. Her brain craves uncertainty. Use it. You want her to think about you when you're not around? Don't give her certainty, give her tension. Most guys try way too hard to be crystal clear with women. They think clarity equals comfort, and comfort equals connection. But that's not how attraction works. Not for her. See, a woman's desire isn't ignited by knowing exactly where she stands. It's triggered by the not knowing, by the space between what she feels and what she can't quite read in you. Her brain is wired to seek emotional resolution, but the trick is, the more you delay that resolution, the more she obsesses. We're talking about biological programming here. Back when survival depended on securing the best possible mate, a man's mystery wasn't a red flag, it was a signal of value. If he wasn't easily accessible, he must be rare. If he wasn't chasing, he must already have options. Her brain still runs that same ancient software, even in today's world of constant texting and attention. That's why the man who gives her less actually makes her feel more. When you pull back just enough, not cold, not distant, but deliberate, you become the question mark she can't stop thinking about. She replays your words. She rewrites your tone. She tells her friends she can't figure you out, and they all lean in with her. This is called intermittent reinforcement, and it's one of the most powerful psychological hooks known to man. You're not giving her validation every second. You're giving it just enough, and at random intervals. That unpredictability keeps her mind busy and her emotions deeply involved. But let's be clear. This isn't about manipulation. This is about value projection. You're not here to entertain. You're not here to chase. You're here because your time is real. Your presence means something. And when you show up, it matters because you don't flood her with energy all day long. She has to earn it. That's the key difference. Most guys are trying to prove they're enough. A Stoic man lets her prove that she is. So what does this look like in practice? You don't always reply right away. You don't always say exactly what you're thinking. You give her presence, but you don't explain yourself. When she makes a flirty comment, you smirk and change the subject. When she asks where you see this going, you say, "Let's just see how it unfolds." You're not being evasive. You're being present without attachment. You're not a puzzle she can solve in one night. And that's what she craves. Because when a woman feels uncertain, she starts to invest. She starts to initiate. She starts to fantasize about what it would mean to finally have you. The second she feels like she already does, that's when the excitement dies. The Stoics knew this. They didn't beg for validation. They stayed calm, grounded, self-contained. That energy radiates. It says, "I am complete, with or without you. And because I don't need you, your interest becomes something I observe, not something I chase." Here's the bottom line. If you're too predictable, you become forgettable. But if you can hold tension, if you can stay mysterious without being cold, you become unforgettable. You don't need to be cold. You don't need to be cruel. But you do need to understand her emotional world thrives on the unknown. If you're always available, always praising, always giving, she stops valuing it. Let her guess sometimes. Let her feel the contrast between having your attention and missing it. That contrast is what keeps her locked in. If you're ready to stop over-explaining and start letting tension do the work, drop this in the comments. I use tension. And stay with me. The next shift doesn't require any words at all, but it'll change the entire way you're seen when you enter a room. Number 3. Act like you've been there before. There's something quietly magnetic about a man who doesn't flinch. He walks into the room, scans the scene, and moves like it's nothing new. He doesn't light it up with energy. He doesn't force attention. He doesn't even want it. But he gets it because of how he carries himself. This is what it looks like to act like you've been there before. See, most guys, when they're around a beautiful woman, change. They tense up, talk too much, try too hard, act like they've entered sacred ground. Everything becomes about impressing her. They lean forward, their energy rises, their sense of self shrinks. That's when the dynamic flips. She's no longer responding to your energy. She's evaluating it. But when you act like you've seen it all before, like beauty doesn't shock you, like attention doesn't inflate your ego, like you've already stood next to amazing women and didn't fall apart, you show her something she doesn't see often: emotional authority. You become the calm in the room. And trust me, she feels it. Because when she's used to being the center of attention, and suddenly she's not, when you're not falling over yourself to compliment her, when you hold her gaze but don't chase her approval, that changes everything. Now you're not just another guy trying to impress her, you're the man she can't read. And the moment she can't read you, she starts leaning in. This is deeper than just being cool. This is about operating from abundance. A man who acts like he's been there before isn't pretending. He actually has. Or at least, he's become so internally grounded that he no longer treats every attractive woman like a once-in-a-lifetime event. He knows who he is. He knows what he brings. He knows he doesn't have to audition. That's Stoic energy, not passive, not cold, just composed, present, powerful. And when you show up like that, women don't feel like they're being hunted. They feel like they've just discovered something real, something different, something they don't have control over yet. And that's what makes it addictive. Think about it like this. You walk into a space, you take your time, you don't oversmile, you don't laugh just to fill silence, you don't look around nervously to see who's watching you. You sit down like you've been in this seat 100 times before. Even if your heart's beating a little faster than the outside, you stay slow. You order with calm. You speak with pause. You make eye contact with ease, not force. And if she comes over, you treat her like a person, not a prize. Like someone you're curious about, not someone you need. That subtle difference changes everything. Because now, instead of you proving something to her, she starts proving something to you. She starts trying to get your attention. She starts questioning why she doesn't have your full focus yet. And that's exactly where you want to be. The Stoics had a word for this kind of presence: ataraxion, unshakable calm. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It means your feelings don't run the show. You own them. You direct them. You bring them to the surface when you decide to, not because someone triggered them. That's the real power. That's what makes a woman feel like she's around someone who's not just confident, but in full control of himself. So the next time you feel the pressure to perform, don't just breathe. Slow down. Relax your face. Speak when you mean it, not when the silence gets uncomfortable. Let her experience your presence before she hears your words. That kind of presence, it's unforgettable. And if this is the energy you want to lead with, say it in the comments. I move calm. Stick around, because the next insight will show you why giving less of yourself often makes her feel more. Number 4, give less and she'll feel more. You've been told that love means giving everything. That connection comes from full transparency, that the more you give, the more she'll feel. But that's only half the story. The truth is, when you give too much too soon, you don't build connection, you flood it. Most guys try to build attraction by overwhelming her with energy. Constant texts, long, vulnerable confessions, back-to-back compliments, full attention, 24/7. It's well-intentioned, but it backfires. Not because you're being kind, but because you're not leaving space. Space is where feelings form. Space is where curiosity grows. Space is what makes her feel the pull. The man who gives less intentionally, calmly, confidently creates a vacuum. a magnetic pull that makes her want to close the distance. And when that desire comes from her, it's 10 times stronger. This is why emotional restraint matters more than emotional intensity. We're not saying be cold. You don't go distant. You go minimal. You go intentional. You speak with weight, not volume. You look her in the eyes, but you don't spill your whole story in one sitting. You don't give her constant access to your thoughts, your time, your energy. That scarcity makes your presence more powerful. Think about your favorite song, the one that gives you chills. Now imagine playing it on loop for 5 hours straight. What happens? You tune it out. It becomes noise. You still love it, but it no longer moves you. The same thing happens in relationships. If she never misses you, she can't desire you. So how do you give less in a way that deepens her experience? Start by being intentional with your availability. Not fake scarcity, real self-prioritization. You're not always on your phone. You don't reply instantly unless it makes sense. You don't jump to hang out every time she calls. You value your time and she starts to value it too. Next, give fewer words. Not because you're cold, but because you're measured. You don't overshare on the first date. You let your stories unfold slowly, like chapters. You make her curious. You don't flood her with flattery. One compliment, when it's earned, hits harder than 5 in a row. You also give fewer reactions. She tests you. You smile. She tries to get a rise out of you. You stay calm. You don't reward every little thing with attention. Your emotional energy is earned, not handed out. This is what creates the Stoic edge. Stoicism isn't about indifference. It's about discipline. It's about understanding that your attention, your words, your presence, they're valuable. You don't give them to prove anything. You give them when they matter. And that's what makes her feel. When she knows you're not like other guys who overshare, overcommit, and overexpose their emotions, she feels the difference. She feels the weight of every glance, every word, every moment with you. Because they're not on demand. They're rare. And rarity creates meaning. In a world where most people are constantly available, the man who's slightly hard to reach becomes unforgettable. He becomes the one she replays in her head, the one she tells her friends about, the one she wonders, what's going on in his world? Why isn't he chasing like the rest? That's not a tactic. That's emotional mastery. It's understanding that desire thrives in tension, not saturation. You want her to feel more? Give her less put. Make what you give count. One powerful look is better than a dozen hollow compliments. One silent pause can say more than a monologue. One thoughtful message can echo longer than a string of emojis. So, if you're ready to stop overwhelming and start commanding emotion with less, drop this in the comments. I move with precision. And don't click away just yet, because in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens when you stop asking for her interest and assume it instead. Number 5. Let her chase your calm. When a man walks into a room carrying calm energy, people notice. But when a man sits across from a woman unshaken, unrushed, unbothered, she notices on a deeper level. Why? Because calmness is rare. Especially the kind that doesn't come from faking it, but from real inner stillness. Most guys bring noise. They talk too much. They try too hard. They react fast. They chase. And every bit of that behavior screams, my center is outside of me. That energy doesn't attract, it overwhelms. It says, validate me so I can feel okay. But calm? Calm says the opposite. It says, I'm already okay. And women chase that kind of energy because it makes them feel safe, intrigued, and oddly challenged all at once. Your calm presence is not just silence. It's a message. It says, you can bring your beauty, your energy, your tests, but you won't shake me. I'm still. I'm grounded. I'm not dancing to your rhythm, I have my own. That kind of steadiness is magnetic. You become the man who's different from what she's used to. You're not there to impress. You're not competing with other guys. You're just there. fully, quietly, powerfully. And here's the truth no one tells you. Women are exhausted by men who try too hard. They might entertain it, they might enjoy the attention, but deep down, they want the man whose value doesn't rise and fall with her reaction. They want the man who's still. Now let's be real. Staying calm isn't always easy. It takes practice. You'll feel the urge to fill the silence, to compliment too soon, to ask for validation. But when you resist that urge, you flip the power dynamic. Suddenly, she's the one filling the space. She's the one thinking, why isn't he reacting? She's the one wondering, what is he thinking? She's the one leaning in. Because now you've made her curious, not just comfortable. And curiosity builds emotional tension. This is what the Stoics understood so well. They didn't chase chaos. They embraced stillness. They didn't let emotions take the lead. They observed them, controlled them. They knew that true strength doesn't yell, it holds. So how do you bring this calm into your own interactions? Start by slowing down. When you speak, pause. When you listen, really listen. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Let silence hang for a beat longer than you're used to. Don't rush to fill it. Let her feel it. Next, breathe from your core. Literally. Keep your voice low and steady. Keep your face relaxed. Move like you've got time, because a man who moves like he has nowhere better to be gives off the vibe of someone who's in control. When things get emotional, don't mirror her intensity. Stay grounded. When she tests you, stay cool. When she gets loud, you get still. You're not being passive, you're being immovable. And that imbalance, that contrast, it draws her in, because here's what she learns without you saying a word. You are not easily moved, and that makes her want to move toward you. It makes her want to understand what's behind the quiet, what's behind the ease, what's behind the peace you carry like armor. Let her chase that. Let her try to crack your calm not because you're hiding, but because your energy is earned, built, protected. You are not a man who spills himself in the first conversation. You are not a man who explodes just because someone pushes a button. You are a man who responds, not reacts. A man whose peace is not for sale. And that more than looks, money, or clever lines is what keeps her coming back. So if this is the kind of presence you're committed to living with, say it in the comments. I protect my peace. And don't go anywhere, because in the next shift, we're not chasing energy. We're commanding it without saying a word. Number 6, pass her tests without reacting. Here's the truth no one wants to admit. She's going to test you, not because she's mean or manipulative or insecure, but because it's how she feels you. It's how she knows what kind of man she's really dealing with. A test isn't just a trick, it's a signal. It says, can I trust his strength? Not just physical strength, but emotional strength, mental clarity, self-possession. And what most men do, they fail instantly. They get defensive, they over-explain, they lash out, they collapse. They trade presence for panic. They treat every playful challenge like a personal attack. That's when she sees it. He's unstable. He doesn't lead. He reacts. But when you pass her tests without reacting, without breaking your frame, without getting pulled into drama, that's when her respect grows. That's when she feels, okay, this guy's built different. Let's be clear here. Tests come in many forms. It could be a sharp joke, a delayed text response, a question meant to poke your ego, even a flirt with another guy just to see how you hold your ground. You don't win these moments by playing defense. You win them by not flinching. You don't get loud. You don't get cold. You don't shrink or overcompensate. You breathe. You hold eye contact. You stay in your center. Think of it like this. She's not trying to destroy your masculinity. She's checking it. She wants to know, is this man really solid, or does he just talk like it? That's where Stoicism gives you the edge. Because Stoicism teaches one thing above all. You don't control events, you only control your response. When someone pushes you emotionally, you don't hand over your power. You pause, you observe. You respond like a man who's already won, not a boy trying to prove something. Let me give you an example. She says, "Wow, you're really confident." How many women have you used that line on? A reactive guy scrambles, "No, no, it's not like that." But you smile. You say, "Only the ones worth talking to." You stay grounded. You flip it with calm, not force. That's how you pass a test without even calling it out. Or maybe she throws some heat. You probably just want attention. A lesser man defends, "That's not true. I'm not like that." You shrug lightly. "Attention's easy to get. I'm here for connection." Simple, clean, no defensiveness. You stay calm. You stay above the game. You don't fall for the bait. Because the moment you get emotional, the test wins. Not because she wins, but because she loses interest in a man who loses himself. And make no mistake, these moments are critical. She's not always aware she's testing you. A lot of it's subconscious. It's in her wiring. She's not looking for perfection, she's looking for integrity, for consistency, for groundedness. And groundedness doesn't flinch. It doesn't chase. It doesn't react. It doesn't throw energy around just because someone else can't handle silence. A grounded man makes her feel something far more valuable than excitement: security. The security of being around a man who leads himself. That's why your ability to stay calm in the face of chaos is sexy. Because she knows deep down that life is full of storms, and if you can't hold your center when she tests you, how will you handle real conflict, real stress, real uncertainty? Passing her tests is not about dominating her. It's about owning yourself. And that ownership is the difference between a forgettable fling and the kind of presence she can't stop thinking about. So remember this: when she tests you, don't analyze. Don't overtalk. Don't defend. Let your energy do the talking. Stay light, stay calm, stay unmoved. And if that's the kind of man you're working to become, drop this in the comments. I hold my frame. Stick with me, because in the next part, we'll shift from response to influence, and you'll see how just being in the room can draw her in more than any pickup line ever could. Number 7. Keep her guessing your intent. If there's one emotion that keeps a woman mentally locked on you, it's curiosity. Not comfort, not clarity, curiosity. And nothing sparks it more than uncertainty about your intent. Does he like me? Is he into me, or just playing cool? Why do I feel so drawn to him when he's not even trying? That inner dialogue, that's where the addiction starts. See, most men ruin the spark by being too clear too early. They lay their intentions bare. I really like you. I think you're beautiful. I want to see where this goes. It sounds honest, and there's nothing wrong with honesty. But when it's given too soon, too easily, it kills the mystery. You've removed the emotional work. She doesn't get to wonder. She doesn't get to think about you after you've gone. She doesn't replay moments and try to decode your vibe. She already knows because you told her everything. That may sound romantic, but it's emotionally flat. There's no suspense, no game to play, no puzzle to solve. But when a man keeps his cards close, not out of manipulation, but out of self-respect that creates tension, he becomes the one she wants to figure out. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about being vague just for the sake of being mysterious. It's about living from a place where you don't need her to know your every thought. Your validation doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being grounded. You're not trying to make her insecure. You're letting her lean in. You give her presence, but not full access. You flirt, but you don't confess. You listen deeply, but you don't rush to label what's happening between you. That undefined space, that's where the magic happens. Here's what women won't say out loud, but will feel instantly. When you keep her guessing your intent, she starts investing emotionally. She puts in effort. She initiates. She tries to impress you. Why? Because uncertainty drives action. Psychologists call it the reward anticipation loop. When a person doesn't know exactly when or how they'll be rewarded when the outcome is possible but not guaranteed, they become obsessed. They keep coming back. Their brain keeps refreshing the tab, waiting for the next signal. That's what your silence does. That's what your calm glances do. That's what your confidence not chased, just owned does. And in that emotional space, you become unforgettable. Think of it like this. You're having a great conversation. The vibe is warm. She's laughing. She's close. Then she says, "So, what are you looking for?" Most guys get nervous. They blurt out something generic, or worse, they over-validate. "Well, I'm really looking for someone just like you." You smile and say, "I'm seeing what life brings. What about you?" Then you lean back. Let her reveal. Let her wonder. Because when you're not trying to lock her down, she feels free and strangely hooked. Or let's say she leans in and asks, "Do you always flirt like this?" You could say, "Only when I'm actually interested." Or better yet, "I'm just enjoying this moment. Are you?" Now she's guessing. Now she's feeling. Now she's invested. The Stoics didn't walk around explaining their every emotion. They let presence speak louder than performance. They were known for emotional restraint, but more than that, for letting the moment unfold without gripping it too tightly. That's what you're doing here. You're not withholding. You're just not rushing. You're not making declarations. You're making her feel something more powerful than words. Mystery. And mystery, when paired with calm confidence, makes her curious in a way no compliment ever could. So if you want her to think about you when you're gone, don't give her a full map. Let her wander through the unknown a little. Because when she can't quite label you, she doesn't forget you. If that's the energy you're aiming to master, say it in the comments. I create mystery. And stay close, because in the next part, we're stepping into pure masculine influence. No touch, no words, just presence. And it speaks louder than you think. Number 8. Be emotionally expensive. We live in a world where emotional availability is thrown around like candy. Quick connections, constant access, instant replies, endless validation. And in that noise, the man who becomes emotionally expensive, selective, measured, becomes a different breed altogether. Think about it like this. Women don't chase cheap emotion. They feel it, maybe even enjoy it in the moment, but they forget it the next day. What they chase, what lingers, is emotional energy that's earned, not given freely. Being emotionally expensive means your time, your focus, your feelings, they have weight. They don't show up on demand. They're not free samples. They're meaningful, intentional, and rare. Now don't confuse this with being cold or withholding. That's not what we're talking about. Stoicism isn't emotional suppression. It's emotional self-control. You feel, but you're not controlled by it. You care, but you don't bleed it out for everyone. The man who's emotionally expensive doesn't broadcast every thought. He doesn't chase emotional comfort in every interaction. He's okay with being misunderstood for a moment if it means staying true to his own center. That's what draws her in. Because here's what happens when a woman senses your emotions are valuable. She works harder for them. She leans in more. She values your praise. She listens closely when you finally speak. Because she knows it doesn't happen often. And that scarcity creates meaning. Imagine this. You're on a date. She tells a story. Most guys would jump in, validate, compliment, show enthusiasm. You listen, you nod, you hold eye contact. And when the story finishes, instead of rushing to praise, you say something simple like, "That's interesting. What made you want to do that?" Boom. She pauses. Why? Because you didn't flood her with emotional response. You made her earn your attention. And now she's hooked not just on your presence, but on the feeling that your approval isn't automatic. That's emotional expense in action. Or maybe you've been texting for a few days. Things are going well. She starts sending flirty messages, hinting for validation. Most guys jump right into the flirt. You keep it light, playful, measured. You don't jump to say, "You're so sexy." You say, "You seem fun when you're in the mood." That subtle shift keeps you in control, and it teaches her your energy is earned, not begged for. This is the edge Stoic men carry. They don't compete emotionally. They don't beg to be seen. They choose when to reveal. They decide when to lean in. And because of that, they feel powerful. They don't say much, but when they do, it lands. They don't give affection constantly, but when they do, it feels real. They don't show vulnerability immediately, but when it shows, it hits deep. The point is not to play games. It's to protect your energy, because when your emotions become too accessible, they lose their gravity. So how do you become emotionally expensive? You start by becoming emotionally aware. Notice what you feel without needing to express it right away. Let it settle. Let it build. Share it when it matters not, when the silence feels uncomfortable. You also protect your attention. Don't chase every notification. Don't offer full emotional intimacy to someone who hasn't earned your trust. Let connection unfold, not explode. You practice saying lesand, meaning more. You don't need to give your story to be seen. Your energy already says enough. And that's the key. Your energy is the currency. If you give it too freely, it loses value. If you offer it intentionally, it becomes irresistible. So if you're ready to be the man who doesn't come cheap, write this in the comments. I raise my value. Don't scroll yet, because in the next shift, we'll tap into the one thing that makes your silence more seductive than any compliment ever could. Number 9. Control the frame or lose it all. There's one silent power that separates the forgettable from the magnetic. It's not looks, it's not status, it's not even charm. It's the frame, the unspoken rules of the interaction. And here's the truth. Whoever controls the frame controls the meaning. Whoever sets the frame sets the tone. Whoever loses the frame loses everything. Most guys don't even know it's happening. They walk into an interaction already inside her frame. They respond to her mood. They try to impress. They wait for cues. They react, adjust, explain, and slowly, without realizing it, they surrender the lead. But the man who holds the frame, he doesn't chase energy, he creates it. He sets the pace. He defines the vibe. He decides what's acceptable and what's not, without saying a word. Let's break this down. What does it mean to control the frame? It means you're not just playing along, you're creating the emotional structure the interaction lives inside. If you're calm, she feels calm. If you're playful, she follows that tone. If you don't flinch when she tests you, the conversation stays grounded. She orbits your gravity, not the other way around. But if you break frame, if you start reacting to every look, every tone, every little comment, now she is leading. Now you're the one proving, chasing, adjusting. And the moment she senses that shift, the attraction starts to fade. Let me give you a real-world example. She's running late. She shows up, no apology. She drops a teasing line. "Well, at least I made it. You weren't waiting too long, were you?" The guy who loses frame says, No, it's okay. I was just chilling." The man who holds frame, he gives a light smile, pauses, says, "Fashionably late, huh? I like confidence, as long as it comes with good conversation." Boom. He's still warm, still composed, but he just reset the tone. He didn't punish her boo, he didn't bend either. Frame control isn't about power games. It's about presence. You don't dominate, you guide. You don't control her, you control yourself. And that self-control creates structure, which creates safety, which creates attraction. Stoicism gives you this edge, because a Stoic doesn't chase external approval. He defines his own terms, his own standards, his own values, And because of that, he's not shaken when someone challenges him. You want her to lean into your world. Then build one strong enough to invite her in. Don't try to earn your place in her frame. Build your sand, let her earn her place in it. And if you're building that kind of inner frame now, drop it in the comments. I hold the frame. Stay with me because in the final part, everything shifts. We're going quiet, but it's the kind of silence that changes the game. Number 10. Become her obsession by acting like you're optional. Nothing pulls a woman deeper into fascination than a man who doesn't need her. Not in a bitter, detached, or arrogant way, but in a calm, grounded, fully lived kind of way. When you show up as a man who could take it or leave it, who chooses to be there, but doesn't need to be, something inside her lights up, because she senses the difference between a man who's available and a man who's rare. Acting like you're optional doesn't mean playing hard to get. It means you've built a life that already gets you. A mission, a pace, a sense of self-worth that doesn't pause just because she's in the room. You're not here to be chosen, you've already chosen yourself. And this subtle, quiet energy, it changes the entire dynamic. Suddenly, she's wondering if she's good enough. She's chasing confirmation. She's trying to crack what makes you so centered, so content, so out of reach, even when you're close. It's a paradox when you don't make her the center of your world, you become the center of hers. Here's what that looks like. You don't rush to reply, not because you're playing games, but because you're genuinely doing your thing. You don't rearrange your whole life just to fit her in. You make space, but you don't collapse your structure. And when you speak, there's no pressure, no emotional neediness, just calm, masculine presence. She can feel that freedom, and at first, it might even confuse her. But over time, it becomes addictive, because every other man tried to hold on. You let go and she's the one holding tighter. The Stoics taught this well. They believed happiness came from self-sufficiency, not external approval. They didn't cling, they didn't beg, they walked forward with purpose. And if someone walked with them, great. If not, they kept walking. That's how you become her obsession, not by filling her inbox, not by proving you're the best man she's ever met, but by being the man who doesn't need to be anyone but himself. Because when you're not afraid to walk away, people stop letting you go. And she will feel that every time you look her in the eye and smile, like she's lucky you showed up. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching, you're evolving. You're not chasing tips to impress women. You're becoming a man who doesn't need to. A man who moves with calm, who leads with silence, who attracts without effort, because effort isn't needed when your energy already says everything. That's the Stoic path. And if it's the path you're walking, you don't have to walk it alone. So here's what to do next. Hit subscribe, not just to follow a channel, but to follow your edge. Join the brotherhood. Become a member of our Stoic circle where we dive deeper, go sharper, and level up together. No fluff, no hype, just men becoming dangerous in the best way possible. Stop guessing. Start seeing the game for what it is. If you're like most men, you give, and give hoping it will finally click. You text first. You explain yourself. You try to be kinder, more available, more understanding. Yet the more you try, the colder she gets. You feel the shift. Your attention is free, your emotions are exposed, and you are stuck wondering what changed. It is not that she is impossible. It is that no one ever taught you how the dynamics actually work. Here is the unlock. Once you understand 5 simple truths, everything settles. You will see why love often feels conditional. You will see why your attention is currency, not a gift. You will see how emotional control flips the power back to you. You will see why options matter and why self-respect is the wall that ends manipulation. No tricks, no anger, just clear vision and a calm way of moving that makes you the chooser, not the chaser. In this video, I am going to lay out those truths in plain English with steps you can use right away. If you are new here, subscribe so you do not miss the daily lessons that build stronger men, stronger boundaries, and better relationships. Keep your mind open, take notes, and test it for yourself. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let's get into it. Number 1. The truth about her love. Every man wants to believe that love, real love, is unconditional. You give your best, stay loyal, provide, protect, and you expect that effort to be returned. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men never hear, a woman's love is never unconditional. It's based on how you make her feel, not on what you've done. And those feelings change depending on who you are right now, not who you were. That doesn't make her heartless, it makes her human. A woman's attraction and love are tied to her sense of safety, admiration, and respect. The moment she stops feeling those things, love starts fading. She may still care about you, but she no longer feels the same way. Look at Daniel 46 and Clara 44. They met in college. Back then he was confident, ambitious, always leading. She adored that energy, it made her feel alive and protected. 20 years later, Daniel's life got comfortable. He stopped pushing forward. He started apologizing for everything, trying too hard to please her. Clara began to withdraw. She said she needed space. What really happened was that she stopped feeling his strength, the same strength that once made her fall for him. Women love through emotion, not obligation. When you change your energy, their feelings follow. That's why the man she fell in love with isn't always the man she stays in love with. The love was real, it just wasn't unconditional. This truth might sting, but it's also freeing. Once you accept that her love depends on who you are, you stop expecting her to be the anchor. You become the anchor yourself. You stop chasing the illusion of unconditional acceptance and start building self-respect that doesn't depend on her validation. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology did. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." That means love fully but with eyes open. Don't confuse devotion with dependency. Don't confuse acceptance with surrender. The moment you stop begging for loyalty, you start inspiring it. A woman respects the man who can love her deeply, while still walking away if she crosses his boundaries. That balance affection with self-respect is what keeps desire alive. Because when she feels that you can live without her, she starts wanting to be part of your life again. Daniel learned that the hard way. After the separation, he didn't beg. He rebuilt himself, hit the gym, started his own business, spent time in silence. Months later, Clara reached out. She said, "You seem different, more grounded." What she really meant was, "You're back to being the man I trusted." When you live by principle instead of emotion, women feel it. They can sense when your love comes from strength, not need. That's the kind of love that earns respect, not pity. So remember this, her love is conditional, but your dignity doesn't have to be. Love her fully, but stay rooted in yourself. Because when you stop asking for unconditional love, you start commanding genuine respect. If you've ever seen this shift happen in your own life, drop it in the comments. I've seen this. Stick with me because this is just the beginning. Number 2, the power of your attention. Your attention is the most valuable currency you'll ever own. Yet most men spend it like loose change, handing it out freely, chasing validation, trying to buy affection with constant presence. The truth is, what you give attention to grows. When you flood someone with it, you make yourself predictable. When you withdraw it, you create gravity. Attention is power because it shapes perception. Whatever you focus on, you give energy to. When you overinvest in her, texting first, checking her stories, analyzing her words, you teach her one thing: you need her more than she needs you. And the moment she feels that polarity dies, you shift from being the man she's drawn to the man she manages. The Stoics understood this long before we had psychology. Marcus Aurelius wrote, The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. In modern terms, what you choose to focus on defines your experience. A man who gives his attention recklessly loses his peace, while a man who directs it with purpose commands his world. Your attention tells people what matters. When you pour it into chaos, you feed drama. When you give it to discipline, silence, and progress, you feed power. Women feel that instantly. They can tell when your energy is scattered and when it's centered. The former feels needy, the latter feels magnetic. Think about this when you stop reaching out first. Stop over-explaining, stop trying to make her feel something. She starts wondering. Silence creates space. That space creates tension. And tension managed well is the root of attraction. You don't need to play games. You just need to stop begging for attention when yours is the real prize. Seneca once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." That's the curse of the modern man, constantly available, endlessly distracted. Every notification, every scroll, every reaction steals a piece of his focus. You cannot command respect when you're ruled by impulse. But when you reclaim your attention, when you decide what deserves your energy, you become rare again. Rarity creates value. The less attention you give away, the more powerful it becomes. Not because you're withholding love, but because you're reminding the world that your time has weight. That's what makes a woman look twice, not desperation but discernment. She feels the difference between a man chasing her approval and a man choosing where to place his focus. Here's what most men miss: indifference isn't power. Direction is. A man who simply ignores everything is empty. A man who chooses what matters and discards what doesn't. That's Stoic mastery. When you can look at a situation, feel the pull to react and still choose silence, you're untouchable. You've shifted from emotional reaction to deliberate control. That's the quiet power women can't name but always feel. Because attention, when used wisely, says, "I value myself first." It tells her you're not here to be entertained, you're here to lead, to build, to choose. Your attention defines your worth. Spend it cheap and you'll be treated cheap. Guard it and the world adjusts to your pace. If this truth makes sense to you, drop it below. I want this. Stay with me. You don't want to miss this. Number 3. Control your emotions. Control her mind. Here's a truth that separates men who keep a woman's respect from those who lose it every time. The one who controls his emotions controls the dynamic. The moment you start reacting to everything she says, or does you hand her the steering wheel, the man who can't control himself ends up being controlled by everyone else. Let's make this real. Stephen, 49, had been dating Laura, 46, for almost a year. At first, things were easy, full of energy, laughter, and passion. But then she started testing him in subtle ways, taking longer to reply, bringing up her ex, or cancelling plans last minute. Stephen took it personally. He'd text paragraphs, demand explanations, and try to fix things through emotional conversations. The more he reacted, the less she respected him. He thought his vulnerability would win her empathy, but it only confirmed her suspicion that he couldn't handle pressure. One day, Stephen decided to stop explaining and start observing. When she went silent, he didn't chase. When she got emotional, he stayed calm. Something changed. Instead of losing interest, she became more engaged. Why? Because calm control is magnetic. The moment a woman realizes she can't control your emotions, she begins to trust you. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about emotional composure, responding, not reacting. The Stoics called this apatheia, not in the sense of indifference, but mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not philosophy. That's strategy. A woman doesn't test you because she wants drama. She tests you to measure your strength, to see if your confidence is real or just talk. When she gets emotional, she wants to feel your stability. When she becomes unpredictable, she's subconsciously asking, can I trust this man to lead when I can't control my feelings? If the answer is yes, she relaxes. If the answer is no, she pulls away. When you lose control of your emotions, anger, frustration, jealousy, you lose your power. But when you remain calm, grounded, and unbothered, you create what psychologists call emotional safety. She feels she can express herself without chaos. That's what opens her up again, not long speeches or apologies, but your steady presence. Think about Stephen again. When Laura saw that he wasn't chasing her mood swings, she adjusted hers. Suddenly, she was the one reaching out, initiating plans, seeking connection. The polarity flipped. That's what emotional control does. It resets the balance. A man who controls his emotions doesn't need to argue or prove his point. His silence speaks louder. His calm unsettles chaos. His presence creates order without saying a word. That's why women are drawn to Stoic energy. It's rare. It feels safe, powerful, and masculine. Here's the irony: the less you react, the more influence you have. Because emotional stability isn't weakness, it's dominance. Not over her, over yourself. And that kind of dominance commands respect, not fear. Remember this: she doesn't fall for your words. She falls for your composure. The man who can stay calm when everything around him is shaking becomes unforgettable. If you've ever seen how staying calm can shift an entire situation, share it below. I've seen this. Let's keep going. It gets deeper. Number 4. The secret of having options. Here's one truth that every man needs to tattoo on his mind. The man with options is the man with power. Most men lose respect in relationships because they live like they have no choice. They attach their happiness, confidence, and identity to one woman, one outcome, one scenario. The moment she pulls away, they panic. But when you understand the psychology of options, everything changes. Options aren't about juggling women or playing games. They're about mindset. A man with options knows that he is not dependent on any single person for validation or meaning. He's built a life so full of purpose, growth, and self-discipline that no rejection can shake his foundation. That energy is what women find irresistible. It's not arrogance, it's abundance. Epictetus said it best: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The same rule applies to desire. When you stop needing, you start attracting. When your self-worth isn't tied to her attention, you move differently, calmer, more certain, more in control. And she feels that difference immediately. Women are drawn to men who can walk away, not because they're heartless, but because they're whole. The ability to walk away isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It says, I value myself enough to not beg for what isn't mine. That's what resets the balance of power. You're not chasing approval, you're choosing alignment. Most men don't have options because they never built them. They put their energy into chasing instead of creating. But here's what happens. When you start building options, you naturally become more attractive. You start hitting the gym, working on your business, refining your habits. You meet new people not to fill a void, but to expand your world. And every time you do, your confidence compounds. The Stoics lived this truth. They didn't cling to people or outcomes. They lived by principle amor fati, the love of fate. They trusted that whatever left their life wasn't meant to stay, and whatever stayed didn't need to be forced. That's real power, emotional independence. When you stop fearing loss, you become impossible to manipulate. The moment a woman realizes you have options, the dynamic flips. Suddenly you're not chasing her energy, she's chasing yours. But this isn't about playing cold. It's about living fully. When your life has purpose and movement, she feels your momentum. She wants to be part of that flow. And if she doesn't, you keep moving because your direction doesn't depend on her permission. Options don't make you selfish. They make you selective. You stop settling for drama, for disrespect, for anyone who doesn't add peace to your life. You stop reacting from scarcity and start acting from strength. And if you're ready to build that kind of strength, not just in theory but in daily practice, this is where it starts. Join the Stoic Brotherhood membership. Inside, you'll learn the real tools to rebuild discipline, emotional control, and masculine energy that naturally attracts without chasing. Exclusive lessons, private discussions, and weekly insights, everything designed to help you become untouchable. Remember, options aren't given, they're created. Build your world, and the right people will want to be in it. Stay small, and you'll keep begging for space in someone else's. If this truth hits home, write it below. This hits hard. Don't go anywhere, the next part will surprise you. Number 5. Respect that turns her on. Every man wants desire. But what most men never realize is that the foundation of a woman's desire isn't lust, it's respect. If she doesn't respect you, she can't truly feel attracted to you. Respect is what keeps desire alive long after looks fade, long after the spark cools. When she respects your boundaries, your mission, your energy, that's when she feels something deeper. That's when she wants to follow your lead. Take Mark 52 and Erica 49. They met after both went through divorces. Mark promised himself he wouldn't repeat old mistakes, overgiving, explaining constantly, trying to prove he was a good man. Early in their relationship, Erica tested his limits. She'd interrupt him in front of friends, make little sarcastic jokes, and push to see how far she could go. Instead of arguing or reacting, Mark stayed calm. One night, after she made another passive-aggressive comment at dinner, he quietly said, "If you talk to me like that again, I'll leave." No drama, no anger, just calm certainty. She froze. Then she nodded. "You're right," she said softly. From that moment on, something changed. Her tone softened, her respect deepened, and with it her attraction reignited. That's the paradox most men never learn. When you lead with boundaries, you create desire. When you seek approval, you kill it. Respect isn't something you ask for, it's something you command through your behavior. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Epictetus said, "You will become what you give your attention to." When you give attention to self-respect, discipline, and integrity, you become the kind of man people, including women, instinctively admire. Women feel that energy on a primal level. They don't consciously think, "I respect him." They feel it in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you respond when tested. It's not about dominance, it's about self-governance. You don't control her, you control yourself. And that control builds a quiet authority that women find deeply attractive. Mark later told a friend, "It wasn't about scaring her or proving anything. It was about respecting myself first. That's it." When you respect yourself, you give her something real to respect. That doesn't mean being rude or cold. It means being clear about what you tolerate and following through when lines are crossed. Every time you back down to avoid conflict, you trade respect for comfort. Every time you let disrespect slide, you tell her you don't believe your standards matter. And once she stops respecting your word, she stops trusting your strength. When trust goes, attraction follows. Real respect is quiet. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't need validation. It simply stands tall and lets the world adjust. That's what turns her on, not power over her, but mastery over yourself. And here's the irony, the more you respect yourself, the more gentle and grounded your energy becomes. You don't need to dominate. You simply exist with strength that doesn't waver. That steadiness makes her relax, and when a woman relaxes, she opens up emotionally, mentally, and physically. Women crave that kind of man, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't bend just to keep peace. The man who can say no calmly is far more seductive than the one who says yes to everything. So remember this, she can only love you as much as she respects you. Lead yourself first, and everything else follows. If this feels true to you, drop it in the comments. I've felt that. Stay right here, it's about to get real. Number 6. The danger of being too available. One of the biggest mistakes men make, especially good men, is being too available. They think showing up for everything, answering every text instantly, and always saying yes proves loyalty and love. But here's the hard truth. When you're too available, you stop being valuable. Availability kills mystery. It tells her she doesn't need to earn your presence, your time, or your attention. And when something costs nothing, people stop respecting it, even if they once desired it. The same attention that drew her in at first becomes background noise when you make yourself constantly accessible. Women don't consciously think, "He's too available, I'll lose interest." What actually happens is energetic. When you erase all space between you, you remove the tension that fuels attraction. Desire needs contrast, closeness and distance, presence and absence, silence and response. Without that rhythm, everything feels flat. The Stoics understood this principle deeply, though they spoke of it as balance rather than romance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste the remaining part of your life in thoughts about others, when you do not refer your thoughts to some object of common utility." In other words, your time should serve purpose, not obsession. When you give every spare moment to someone else, you lose your direction, and with it your edge. Being too available sends a subconscious message. My world revolves around you. And no woman truly wants that. She might say she does, but what she feels attraction for is a man with his own orbit, his own mission, focus, and discipline. A man she can join, not a man she can consume. Stoicism teaches detachment, not coldness, but perspective. When you live with purpose, your attention has weight. You don't give it away easily because you know it fuels everything you build. That's what gives your presence value. When you're not always reachable, your energy becomes rare, and rarity creates desire. Think about it when a man pulls back slightly, not to play games, but to focus on himself. The entire dynamic shifts. She starts wondering what you're doing, where your focus went. Her imagination fills the space you created. That's when she starts chasing again, not because she's losing control, but because she's drawn to your independence. But when you're always there, always waiting, always available, there's no room for her to feel that pull. You've given her certainty, and certainty kills excitement. Attraction thrives on the unknown. She wants to feel that you could walk away if something doesn't align with your peace. That's not cruelty, that's confidence. Seneca said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." When your time and energy are spread too thin, constantly texting, checking, waiting, you vanish. You lose your gravity. The man who can say, "I'm busy building," instead of "I'm waiting for her reply," radiates strength. He lives with purpose first and emotion second, so don't confuse availability with love. Love is choosing someone with intention, not surrendering all your space. When she sees you can live without constant contact, she feels safer because your life doesn't depend on her moods. That's when she respects you. That's when she starts missing you. Stop proving your loyalty by being always present. Prove it by staying focused. Because in the end, a man who is too available loses himself, and a man who loses himself loses everything. If this truth makes sense to you, write it below. This hits hard. Stay with me, you don't want to miss this. Number 7. How to make her chase you. Most men spend their entire lives chasing women, trying to convince, impress, and please. They pour their time and energy into pursuit, thinking effort equals attraction. But the more they chase, the faster she runs, because no woman truly desires the man who needs her more than she needs him. To make her chase you, you have to understand one thing. Attraction is not built through pursuit, it's built through polarity. The moment you become the one moving forward while she stands still, the energy flips, she becomes the prize, and you become the pursuer. But when you step back, when you focus on your own direction and purpose, polarity reverses. She starts to feel your absence. She starts to notice your stillness. And that's when she begins to chase. Let's make this real. Jason, 47, from Arizona, spent years being the nice guy. He thought attention, consistency, and constant communication were what kept women interested. Every relationship ended the same: strong in the beginning, cold at the end. After his last breakup, Jason decided to change something. Instead of chasing, he focused on himself. He hit the gym, joined a business mentorship, and stopped checking his phone every hour. Within weeks, his ex, Samantha, 44, texted him, "You've been quiet lately." What's going on? That's the shift. When you stop moving toward her, she starts moving toward you. Because women aren't attracted to your availability, they're drawn to your direction. They want to feel your presence, not your pressure. The Stoics understood this power. Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When you master your emotions, your time, and your focus, you stop acting from need. You move from abundance, not desperation. That's what creates the energy she can't resist. When Jason stopped chasing, he didn't become cold, he became centered. His energy said, "I'm not waiting for you to choose me. I've already chosen my path." And that subtle shift made Samantha feel something she hadn't felt in years: curiosity. Because a man on his mission is unpredictable. He's exciting, he's rare. Women chase mystery, not comfort. They chase energy that makes them feel alive, not energy that feels desperate. When you stop over-explaining, stop texting first, stop trying to prove your worth, you force her to feel your absence. That emotional space is what creates attraction. Here's the thing: you can't fake this. Pretending to be detached while secretly checking your phone every minute doesn't work. You have to truly let go. You have to genuinely focus on your purpose, your body, your discipline. That's what makes your silence powerful. Because your energy no longer says, "I need you." It says, "I'm good either way." Jason learned that lesson for good. When Samantha tried to come back, he didn't rush to reply. He met her with calm energy, not revenge, not arrogance, just peace. "Good to hear from you," he said. That was it. No long messages, no emotional debate. And just like that, she was hooked again. You make her chase you not by withholding affection, but by withholding need. When your life is full, your time is valuable, and your emotions are stable, you become the prize. If you've ever pulled back and watched everything shift, tell me below. I've seen this. Stay close, this is where the Stoic power shows. Number 8. The moment she starts to fear losing you. There's a shift that happens in every relationship, a silent moment when a woman starts to realize she no longer has complete control over your emotions. That's the moment she begins to fear losing you. It's subtle at first. She becomes more curious, more attentive, more present. The energy changes. Why? Because she senses something she hasn't felt in a long time: uncertainty. See, the modern man gives his heart too quickly. He makes his world revolve around her, thinking that devotion equals security. But when everything about your energy says, "I'm not going anywhere," she stops valuing it. There's no tension left. Desire fades not because love is gone, but because certainty has killed mystery. Women don't consciously want to lose you, but they need to feel that they could. That feeling of uncertainty fuels attraction. It keeps her alert, engaged, emotionally invested. When she knows you won't chase, she starts moving toward you again. The moment she senses she could lose your focus, your attention, your presence, that's when her instincts awaken. The Stoics understood this dynamic long before modern psychology did. Seneca wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a man who can control what others attempt to control in him." What does that mean here? It means you don't let your emotions or her behavior dictate your direction. You remain grounded. The less reactive you are, the more she starts reacting to you. When you stop arguing, stop explaining, stop trying to prove your loyalty. When you move with calm certainty, she begins to feel something powerful. She realizes She's no longer the center of your attention. She's no longer sure she can influence your mood. And that loss of control triggers her primal fear of disconnection. But paradoxically, it's what rekindles her desire. This isn't manipulation, it's balance. It's about shifting from dependency to polarity. You're not pulling away to punish her, you're simply living in your truth, focusing on your purpose and letting your energy speak for itself. When your presence no longer comes with guarantees, your value increases. She starts thinking about you more. She wonders what you're doing, who you're with, what has your attention. That curiosity is the seed of attraction. The irony, you don't even have to try. It happens naturally when you stop needing her validation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." When your ambitions rise above the need for approval, you become magnetic. You're no longer chasing love, you're chasing purpose. And that makes you the kind of man she can't easily replace. When she fears losing you, she'll test harder, but she'll also invest more. She'll start showing affection, seeking reassurance, and trying to rebuild emotional connection. That's her way of saying, "I still want to matter to you," and that's when your composure matters most. You don't rub it in, you don't gloat. You simply stay steady, kind but detached, firm but calm. Because the goal isn't to make her fear you, it's to make her respect your independence. You want her to understand that you're not in her life because you need her, but because you choose her. That's the balance between desire and dignity. When she senses that when she feels you could walk away and still be whole, that's the exact moment she fears losing you. And that's the moment she truly sees your value. If this truth resonates with you, write it below. This hits hard. Hold on, because the next truth hits harder. Number 9. The calm confidence she can't resist. There's a kind of man that women can't quite explain why they're drawn to. He's not the loudest in the room. He's not trying to prove himself. He's not even chasing attention. He just is. His presence carries something steady, a quiet confidence that says, "I'm good no matter what happens." That's the kind of energy women can't resist. Confidence isn't bravado. It's not walking around trying to dominate the room or win approval. It's calm, grounded in silence, not noise. When you're calm, you make her feel safe. When you're confident, you make her feel drawn in. Together, calm and confidence create the most powerful combination in attraction. Take David, 50, and Michelle, 47. They met at a charity event. Michelle was used to men who tried too hard, bragging about money, interrupting her stories, competing for attention. But David was different. He spoke slowly, listened fully, and didn't rush to fill the silence. When he smiled, it wasn't to impress, it was genuine. When she tested him, mentioning another man, teasing him lightly, he didn't flinch. He just grinned and said, "You seem to like attention," then changed the subject. That moment sealed it for her. His calm didn't come from arrogance, it came from certainty. She knew he wasn't performing. And that's what pulled her closer. The Stoics would call this ataraxia, a state of inner peace, unshaken by external chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's calm confidence, the ability to remain composed, no matter how emotional, unpredictable, or testing the situation becomes. Here's the truth: women crave emotional stability. They live in a world full of noise, emotions, opinions, expectations, and when they meet a man who moves through that chaos without losing his balance, he feels like an anchor. He becomes the calm in their storm. But this kind of confidence doesn't come from pretending, it comes from practice. You earn it by controlling your reactions, by choosing silence over arguments, by mastering your impulses. You stop needing to win every conversation. You stop proving your worth. You just show it in how you live. David used to be the opposite. After his divorce, he realized how often he'd tried to fix emotions instead of just holding space for them. He learned that calm doesn't mean emotionless, it means self-controlled. So he started working on it, meditating in the mornings, setting clear boundaries, slowing down before responding. Slowly his energy changed, and women noticed. Michelle once told him, "When I'm around you, I can breathe." That's the effect of calm confidence. It doesn't overwhelm, it stabilizes. And that stability feels powerful, safe, and deeply masculine. Most men think they need to impress women with effort, but the man who's unbothered, unhurried, and unapologetically himself stands out more than any performance ever could. Because calm confidence doesn't shout, it whispers. And what it whispers is simple: I don't need to chase you. I'm already enough. That's the kind of man who never has to fight for attention. Because the moment he walks away, she feels his absence. Not because he played a game, but because his energy left a mark. If you've ever seen how staying calm shifts the entire dynamic, share it below. I've seen this. Let's keep going. The next step changes everything. Number 10. The mindset that ends the game. There's a point every man reaches, a breaking point, where he finally says, "I'm done playing, done chasing, proving, analyzing, and trying to make people see his worth." It's not bitterness, it's awakening. That's the moment the game ends. Not because you beat it, but because you stop participating. When you reach that point, you stop seeing relationships as competitions or power struggles. You stop trying to decode every message, test, and signal. Instead, you move with quiet certainty. You understand that you can't control how someone feels, only how you respond. And that's the mindset that separates boys from men. This is the essence of Stoic power. The game, whether it's dating, manipulation, or emotional drama, only works when you react. When you take the bait, defend your worth, or chase for reassurance, you keep feeding the cycle. But when you stay calm, unbothered, and focused on your own direction, you break it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. That's freedom. The world can throw chaos at you, but if your peace doesn't depend on anyone else, you're untouchable. See, every game in relationships is built on insecurity. Who needs who more? Who can get the upper hand? Who cares less? But when your sense of self doesn't come from her validation, you remove the leverage completely. You don't need to win, because there's nothing to lose. You already have what every man's chasing: inner control. Let's talk about what this mindset looks like in real life. Imagine a man who's finally stopped chasing approval. He's focused on his mission, building something meaningful. A business, a body, a life that reflects discipline. He's polite but detached, kind but firm. When a woman tests him, he smiles instead of arguing. When she pulls back, he doesn't panic. When she comes closer, he doesn't cling. He moves at his own pace, not hers. That man isn't playing hard to get, he's just hard to shake. His mindset says, "You can stay or go. Either way, I'm good." And that's what ends the game, because there's no longer any control to gain over him. Here's what most men miss. Being emotionally detached doesn't mean being cold, it means being free. It means you can love deeply without losing yourself. You can care without collapsing. You can give without begging. The mindset that ends the game is built on self-trust, the unshakable belief that you'll be okay regardless of what happens. This is what the Stoics lived for, not emotionless isolation, but emotional discipline. They understood that strength isn't in avoiding love or pain, but in mastering your reaction to it. When you stop needing outcomes, you start choosing them. You no longer chase validation, you attract alignment. And women feel that difference instantly. They sense when your peace isn't negotiable, when your energy isn't for sale. It's not arrogance, it's integrity. You're not against love, you've just outgrown dependence. That's when connection becomes pure, not transactional, not manipulative, not desperate. Seneca said, "He who is free, brave enough to walk away, brave enough to stand alone, brave enough to live by principle, not by emotion." That's the mindset that ends every game, not through force, but through clarity. Because when you truly know your worth, you don't play for attention, you play for purpose. You stop trying to win someone else's approval and start winning your own respect. And once you reach that level of awareness, the game loses all meaning. You're no longer chasing love. You've become it, steady, calm, unshakable. That's the mindset that ends the game, not with anger, not with control, but with peace, the kind of peace that no one can take from you. So now you understand the real power isn't about playing games, chasing, or trying to win someone over. It's about mastering yourself. When you control your emotions, protect your attention, build your options, and live with calm confidence, you stop being reactive. You become grounded. You become the kind of man who commands respect without saying a word. This video wasn't just about women, it was about you, about becoming the kind of man who leads with strength, patience, and purpose, and who no longer looks for validation, but creates it through his actions. That's what Stoicism teaches, not indifference but control, not arrogance but awareness. And once you live from that place, every relationship, every challenge, every test starts to move in your favor. If you're ready to take this further, to build unshakable emotional strength, true masculine composure, and the discipline to stay calm no matter what, join the Stoic Brotherhood membership. Inside, you'll find exclusive lessons, mindset training, and private mentorship to help you live like the modern Stoic, powerful, focused, and free. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Every day I share tools, philosophy, and strategies that help you become stronger, not just in relationships, but in life. One move before she sleeps can make you unforgettable. Not a trick, not a script, just presence she can feel. If you're like most men, you work hard, you're decent, and women like you, but they don't stay fascinated. Your messages are polite, your dates are fine, but the spark fades slowly, silently. You try more effort, longer texts, bigger compliments, faster replies. Instead of desire, you get thank yous and distance. It's not because you're boring, it's because your energy feels scattered, reactive, unsure. Tonight we change that. We're going to make her mind do the work while you stay calm. This isn't manipulation, it's discipline. 10 simple shifts grounded in Stoicism complement what others miss. Hold your frame under pressure, remember the details, look like a man who leads himself, and speak with timing and tone that carry weight. You'll learn how to plant images before midnight, how to let silence turn electric, how to reveal vulnerability without losing power, and how purpose makes your words feel different. No pickup lines, no over-texting, just quiet control that pulls her toward you. I'll show you the words rhythm and posture that make women feel safe and curious at the same time, so she thinks about you first thing in the morning. Stay with me, gentlemen. The difference between forgettable and addictive is smaller than you think, and it starts tonight. Let's get into it. Number 1. Compliment what no one else notices. Most men give compliments like they're reading from a script. You look beautiful. Nice dress. You smell amazing. It's predictable. It's safe. And that's exactly why it fades. She's heard those words 1,000 times from men who wanted something. You don't want to sound like every other man. You want to sound like the one who sees her. Let me tell you about Mark, 54, from Denver. He'd been divorced for 3 years when he met Lisa, 51, through mutual friends. She was sharp, confident, but distant, the kind of woman who'd learned to filter out flattery. Mark was used to complimenting women on appearance, and it never stuck. One night after a group dinner, he noticed something different. When she told a story, she lightly tapped the table twice before making her point. It was subtle, rhythmic, a sign of her confidence and her nervous energy blending together. The next day, instead of sending the usual, "Had a great time," he wrote, I like how you tap the table before you speak. It's like your thoughts are too quick for your words. No emojis, no overthinking. Just observation turned intimacy. Her reply immediate. You actually noticed that. And in that moment he separated himself from everyone else. Because here's the truth. A woman doesn't crave the compliment itself. She craves the feeling of being seen. That's the psychology behind this. Most people walk through life unseen. When you recognize something small, the way she tilts her head when she laughs, the color she wears when she's unsure, the way her voice changes when she talks about her passion, you're signaling emotional intelligence. You're telling her, I see the real you, without ever saying those words. It's a powerful form of attraction because it bypasses vanity and goes straight to identity. And that's where obsession begins, when someone feels understood. But here's the key, never overdo it. You're not cataloging details like a detective, you're noticing them like a poet, calmly, naturally, sparingly. The Stoics would call this awareness without attachment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe without judging, act without needing." That's exactly the mindset. You observe details not to manipulate but to connect. Because women can tell when a compliment is strategic versus when it's authentic. Authentic observation feels grounded. It doesn't come from need, it comes from presence. When Mark started doing this, his whole energy changed. He wasn't trying to impress anymore. He was paying attention fully. That shift alone made Lisa lean in more. She began texting first, sending pictures of random things she knew he'd notice, like a coffee mug with a pattern similar to one he'd once mentioned. That's not coincidence. That's attachment through recognition. So the next time you're with her, slow down. Watch the micro expressions. Listen between her words. Compliment the invisible. Say something like, "You have this small pause before you laugh, it's my favorite part." Or, "You look calm when everyone else is rushing, it's rare." Simple, precise, sincere. And after you say it, let silence do its work. Don't rush to add more. She'll fill the quiet with thought, and those thoughts will be about you. Because when a woman realizes you notice what no one else does, you stop being part of her world. You become the man who understands it. If you've ever seen that flash of surprise in her eyes when she realizes you really noticed, write "I see details" below. And stay here, because next we'll explore what happens when you stop trying to prove power and start embodying it. Number 2. Calm is the rarest form of power. Most men lose attraction not because they lack confidence, but because they lose composure. The moment a woman tests their patience, questions their intentions, or pulls back, they react. They text faster, talk more, explain, defend. What they don't realize is this: the second you react, you've handed over your power. Calm isn't just a personality trait. It's a form of emotional dominance. It's quiet, grounded, unshakable energy that tells her you're not moved by chaos, you contain it. Every woman, consciously or not, looks for that. Because when she pushes, it's not to provoke you, it's to see where your center lies. You can't fake calm. You either have it or you don't. And the way you build it is through control, not of her, but of yourself. In Stoicism, calm is the result of training the mind to separate what's inside your control from what isn't. Epictetus said it best: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The same applies in attraction. When she's distant, when she challenges you, when she tests your mood, that's not a problem. That's your arena. The calm man doesn't chase reassurance. He doesn't need to fix the silence. He lets space breathe because he knows his presence is still felt. And that's the paradox. When you stop trying to hold on, she feels safer holding on to you. This kind of composure isn't passive. It's charged stillness. It's the quiet authority that says, "I'm not going anywhere, but I'm also not bending." That balance between stability and independence is magnetic. It tells her you're grounded in something deeper than desire, self-mastery. From a psychological perspective, calmness activates trust. When a man reacts anxiously, it signals uncertainty and emotional volatility. But when he remains still, even in tension, her nervous system syncs to his. She feels safe, even when she doesn't understand why. That's the secret of attraction most men never learn. You don't need to impress her, you need to regulate you. Picture this: you send a text, she doesn't reply for hours. Most men panic. They double text. They spiral. A Stoic man reads the silence differently. He doesn't interpret it as rejection, he sees it as space, and space is where clarity grows. When she finally does reply, he answers from calm energy, not stored-up frustration. That difference is everything. She reads your tone, not your words. Calm tone equals strength. Reaction equals insecurity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This isn't just philosophy, it's emotional strategy. The modern world runs on overstimulation. Everyone reacts, everyone overshares. Calmness is now rare, and rarity is always valuable. That's why a man who moves slow, speaks little and holds steady, becomes unforgettable. So when tension rises, whether in conversation, in silence, or in intimacy, slow your breath. Don't rush to fill the air. That pause is where your power lives. Women remember the man who didn't flinch, the man who looked at her and didn't try to fix her emotions, the man whose energy said, "You can storm, but I remain." That's calm, and it's the most seductive thing in the world. If you've ever stayed still when everything around you wanted to pull you off balance, write "I stay grounded" below. Next, we'll talk about how remembering what others forget makes her feel seen, not just noticed. Number 3. Remember the details she forgets. There's a moment that separates a man she likes and she can't stop thinking about it. When you remember the details she forgot told you. Let's talk about David, 56, from Austin. He met Rebecca, 52, through work. Both divorced, both successful, both careful. She wasn't easily impressed. She'd been through every type of flattery and knew when a man was trying too hard. David, though, didn't chase attention. He listened, really listened. One night over dinner, Rebecca mentioned she hadn't been to the coast in years, then shifted topics so quickly she didn't even notice what she'd said. Weeks later, when David texted her, he didn't send a cliché, "Good morning" or "How was your day?" He wrote, "You ever miss the sound of waves after dark?" She paused, then replied, "Wait, how did you remember that?" That's how emotional connection starts. Not through grand gestures, but through precision. The kind that says, "I paid attention when no one else did." When you recall something she said casually, it creates a spark of emotional intimacy. It bypasses the surface level of attraction and speaks directly to her subconscious, the part that craves to feel understood. Because here's the truth: women don't fall for men who say the most, but for those who retain the most real. In psychology, this is called emotional mirroring. When you bring back details from her world, her favorite coffee spot, the movie she mentioned once, the way she hums before answering a question, it tells her she matters in yours. That's what deepens attachment. The Stoics would recognize this as a form of presence. Seneca said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." The man who's distracted, who's half listening while planning his next reply, misses everything that makes her unique. But the man who's grounded, who's fully there in that conversation, he collects details without even trying. And that's what David mastered. He never kept notes, never forced himself to remember. He just listened. And because his focus wasn't on impressing her, his memory did the work for him. Rebecca told me later that this single habit made her feel something she hadn't felt in years, seen, not evaluated. She started thinking about him more. She replayed conversations in her head. That's not manipulation. That's connection built on attention. Here's what most men get wrong. Remembering details isn't about being sentimental or overly romantic. It's about signaling respect and emotional intelligence. You're saying, "You're worth remembering." The next time she tells you about her day, pick one small detail, the name of her co-worker, the smell of the rain she mentioned, the song she was listening to, and recall it days later. Not immediately. Let time pass. Then drop it naturally. That delay makes it even more powerful because it feels genuine, not rehearsed. Try this. Instead of saying, "How was your day?" say, "Did that client ever apologize?" Instead of "I was thinking of you," say, "You mentioned that old bookstore downtown. I walked by it today." It's subtle, but subtlety is seductive. And when she realizes you've been paying attention, even when she wasn't trying to impress you, her guard lowers and her attraction grows roots. Women remember the man who remembers what they forget. It's that simple. If you've ever noticed something small that changed the way she looked at you, write "I remember details" below. Because next we'll explore something just as powerful: how your image, your stillness, and your presence speak louder than any words ever could. Number 4. Look like you lead yourself. You can't attract a woman who respects strength if you don't look like a man who leads himself. And I don't mean expensive clothes or flashy watches. I mean the quiet discipline that shows through the way you move, the way you speak, and the way you carry your own energy. Here's the truth. Most men never learn. Women don't just notice your looks, they notice your order. They see the state of your body, your home, your habits, and they read your mind through them. You can tell her you're confident, or she can see it before you open your mouth. The second is always stronger. When a man leads himself, his appearance becomes a language. His clothes are clean but not loud. His posture is upright but relaxed. His speech is measured, never rushed, never begging for approval. His phone isn't on the table because his attention is already anchored in the moment. That kind of control is magnetic because it's so rare. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, before you can lead others, before you can even lead a relationship, you must lead you. Your grooming, your space, your daily routine, they're not vanity, they're structure. They're the external proof of internal command. When your life is in order, your energy communicates stability. And stability is what women crave more than charm. Here's something subtle but powerful. A man who leads himself never chases pace. He sets it. When you walk into a room slowly and deliberately, you're telling everyone, "My world moves on my time." That's dominance without aggression. It's leadership through rhythm. Women are hypersensitive to rhythm. They feel it before they analyze it. If your rhythm is frantic, they mirror it. If it's composed, they relax. That's why a calm, structured man becomes instantly more attractive. He regulates the energy in the room without saying a word. And this leadership doesn't end at appearance. It extends to boundaries. Leading yourself means you decide when to engage and when to withdraw. You decide how much energy to give, how much time to share, and when to walk away. That control doesn't make you cold, it makes you grounded. The Stoic man knows that mastery begins in repetition. You wake up, train, read, reflect, and show up with intention, not to prove anything, but to keep the mind sharp and the spirit steady. The result, every interaction with a woman feels effortless because you're not trying to perform. Being a man who's already fulfilled. This is where attraction becomes obsession, when she realizes you don't need her approval to move forward. You already have direction, you already have peace. She doesn't become your center, she becomes curious about what is. That's why it's called self-leadership. It's not dominance over others, it's dominance over impulse. And in a world full of men reacting to every emotion, the man who leads himself becomes the rarest signal of power. Remember, order is sexy, consistency is seductive, and leadership, quiet, disciplined leadership, is what makes her follow your energy long after the conversation ends. If you want to build that kind of internal strength, the kind that rewires your habits, body language, and mind, join the Stoic Men's Circle. Inside, we break down the psychology routines and daily systems that turn philosophy into power. You'll learn how to build composure that shows, not by talking about it, but by embodying it. Join now, take control, and start leading yourself today. Because the man who leads himself never chases. He attracts naturally, silently, powerfully. Number 5. Keep your world in order. There's nothing more quietly attractive than a man whose world is in order. Not perfect, not flawless, but steady, structured, and disciplined. Most men think attraction is about saying the right things or acting confident. It's not. It's about the silent evidence of how you live when no one's watching. Let me tell you about Daniel, 58, from Seattle. After his divorce, he spent 2 years feeling lost. His apartment was cluttered, his sleep was random, his motivation came and went. When he started dating again, women liked him at first. Funny, kind, successful, but something was missing. The energy wasn't grounded. Then he did something simple but powerful. He decided to clean up his world. Not just his space, but his routines. He woke up at the same hour, kept his desk clear, cooked his own meals, and started reading again instead of scrolling before bed. Slowly, that order reflected in everything: his posture, his tone, even the way he looked at people. A few months later, he met Claire, 54, at a gallery opening. She told him later, "You seemed calm, like you weren't chasing anything." That's what order does. It signals peace, and peace is magnetic. Women feel it instantly. When your world is chaotic, your space, your time, your emotions, she feels it. When your world is ordered, she relaxes into it. Because deep down, every woman wants to feel that she's entering a man's universe that's already whole. The Stoics called this cosmos, meaning order, harmony, structure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let your mind be like the universe, calm, composed, in order." That's not just philosophy, that's attraction. Because order is a signal of stability, and stability is the foundation of desire. Think about it. When your environment is clean, your clothes are intentional, your energy is steady, you send one clear message: I have direction. You're not scrambling for validation, you're not waiting for approval. You're a man who's already fulfilled, inviting her to witness your world, not complete it. That's the subtle but powerful shift. Most men subconsciously look to a woman to organize their chaos, emotionally, mentally, even physically. But when you bring order first, she sees you differently. You become a source of calm, not a request for rescue. Daniel told me something interesting. He said, "When I fixed my space, I stopped feeling desperate." That's the hidden reward. When your life is organized, you stop chasing because you already feel centered. That energy changes everything: your voice, your eye contact, even your silence. And women sense it. Claire later admitted, "It wasn't your words that attracted me, it was your stillness." Order is masculine energy in motion. It's proof of mastery. Here's the truth: you don't have to live like a monk or control every detail. You just need visible signs of structure: your workspace, your habits, your schedule. Because those little details communicate a lot more than compliments ever could. So tonight, look around your environment. Ask yourself, does this reflect the man I want to be? If the answer is no, start small. Clean your desk. Fold your clothes. Finish one task completely before starting another. This isn't about control, it's about clarity. Because when your world is in order, you don't need to say much. She'll feel it the moment she steps into your space. And that's when fascination starts. When she realizes your life doesn't revolve around her, but it invites her in. If you've ever noticed how peace draws people toward you without effort, write, "I live in order," below. And stay here, because next we'll uncover the edge that turns ordinary attraction into obsession, the kind that keeps her thinking about you long after the night ends. Number 6. Find the edge that makes you magnetic. Every man has an edge, something that makes him unforgettable, but most bury it under politeness, overthinking, or fear of being misunderstood. The truth is, attraction doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from having depth, tension, and contrast. That's the edge, the place between calm and danger, warmth and restraint, desire and discipline. In modern dating, too many men confuse being nice with being neutral. They round off every sharp part of themselves so they don't offend anyone. But what happens? They become invisible. Because women aren't drawn to predictability, they're drawn to polarity. To the man who feels grounded yet slightly unpredictable, controlled but not caged. The Stoics understood this duality. Seneca once wrote, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." Notice he didn't say unfeeling, he said unconquerable. That means you can have fire inside, but it doesn't consume you, it fuels you. Your edge is what gives you that presence, the thing people can't quite label. It's the calm intensity in your eyes, the deliberate way you pause before speaking, the mystery of not explaining every thought. It's restraint mixed with danger. Here's why it works psychologically. Women subconsciously test boundaries to feel a man's strength. Not because they want conflict, but because they want to know there's something solid behind the charm. Your edge is proof that your peace has been earned, not borrowed. You can't fake it. You can't copy someone else's version of it. Your edge is built through your story, your scars, your choices, your failures, your standards. It's shaped by how you respond to chaos. A Stoic man isn't emotionless. He feels deeply, but filters his reactions through reason. That's the core of magnetism, feeling without losing balance. When you can stay centered in passion, you become impossible to ignore. Think of it like this. Calm energy without fire becomes dull. Fire without calm becomes chaos. Your edge is the meeting point between the two. But here's what makes it powerful. You don't show it all the time. You let people sense it. Women pick up on that faster than words. It's the energy that says, "There's more here, but only if you can handle it." That's the essence of sexual tension, not touch, but restraint. To cultivate it, you have to start with self-awareness. Ask yourself, what makes me different? What have I survived that shaped my calm? What truth about myself am I afraid to show? That's usually where your edge hides. It's in the parts of you that are authentic but underused. And when you start owning that, your whole presence shifts. Your voice deepens, not in pitch but in energy. You stop over-explaining because mystery speaks louder than detail. You stop trying to impress because you realize you already carry something rare, composure with complexity. That's why women remember men who have lived, reflected, and grown. The ones who aren't trying to fit in but simply exist with purpose. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's the foundation of your edge. You don't define it, you live it. And when you live it, people, especially women, feel it. Because here's the paradox. The more grounded you are, the more dangerous you become. Not because you're reckless, but because you're free. If you've ever felt that silent power in yourself, that inner tension between peace and fire, write "I have my edge" below. And stay here. Because next, we'll explore the side of attraction. Most men misunderstand the kind that comes not from strength alone, but from showing just enough vulnerability to make her lean closer. Number 7. Show vulnerability like a man. There's a fine line between being vulnerable and being emotional, and most men never learn how to walk it. Vulnerability doesn't mean unloading your pain on someone. It's not about seeking comfort or validation. True vulnerability shown the right way is a quiet form of strength. It's the ability to reveal truth without losing control. Let's talk about Eric, 55, from Chicago. He'd been dating Vanessa, 50, for a few months. Things were good, but something felt flat. She liked him, admired him, but didn't feel deeply connected. Eric was composed, calm, but almost too put together, like nothing could touch him. One night, they were talking about their past marriages, and Eric mentioned almost offhand how his teenage son once told him, "Dad, you never talk about what hurts." Then he paused. He didn't break down. He didn't dramatize. He just looked away for a second and said quietly, he was right. That single moment changed everything. Vanessa later said, "That's when I actually saw him." See, women don't connect to perfection, they connect to truth. But here's the nuance: truth only attracts when it's delivered with composure. When a man can show what's real without collapsing into it, it signals strength and depth. That's the combination that creates emotional gravity, the kind that keeps her thinking about you long after the conversation ends. The Stoics understood this balance better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't be ashamed of needing help. What disgraces you is not facing the truth. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's awareness. It's the courage to face reality and still stand tall." In relationships that looks like this, you can admit you've failed, but you've learned. You can express that you've been hurt, but you've healed. You can share your fears but never surrender to them. You show emotion with restraint, honesty with composure. The psychology behind it is simple. When a man hides everything, he becomes cold, unreachable. When he overshares, he becomes chaotic, unsafe. But the man who reveals selectively with self-awareness becomes magnetic. He makes her feel safe enough to open up too. That's exactly what happened with Eric and Vanessa. After that night, their conversations changed. They went deeper. She told him about her doubts, her insecurities, her dreams. He didn't rush to fix them, he just listened the same way he did with his son. That kind of listening paired with truth is what forms real intimacy. So, how do you do it? Start small. Don't hide everything behind humor or logic. When something affects you, acknowledge it. Not to gain sympathy, but to stay authentic. Say things like, "That actually got to me," or "I didn't expect that to hurt." Then move forward. No explanation needed. It's that calm honesty that makes a woman feel like she's seeing something rare, a man who's in touch with himself, not run by himself. Because here's the paradox: when you hide all emotion, you seem untouchable. When you share too much, you seem unstable. But when you reveal just enough, you seem real. That's how Stoic men connect, not through grand words, but through grounded truth. So remember, this being vulnerable doesn't mean being weak. It means being so secure in your strength that you don't fear being seen. If you've ever shown truth and felt your connection deepen, instantly write, "I lead with truth," below. Because next, we'll explore what happens when you master yourself first and let your energy speak louder than your words. Number 8. Master yourself before you text her. Every man has felt it, that rush of adrenaline when your phone lights up with her name. You want to reply fast, say the right thing, keep her interested. But here's the truth. The moment your emotions control your timing, your tone, or your intent, you've already lost your power. Most men text from impulse. They text to relieve anxiety, not to express confidence. And women can feel that energy instantly. Words are only half the message. The rest is what's behind them, the emotion you're radiating when you send them. The Stoics understood this long before smartphones existed. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That line applies perfectly to modern communication. Freedom in dating doesn't come from knowing what to say. It comes from controlling why you're saying it. Before you text her, pause. Ask yourself, am I reaching out because I want to connect or because I'm afraid of losing connection? That pause is the line between composure and neediness, between attraction and anxiety. Self-mastery starts in that tiny gap between thought and action. It's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. She's the outside event." Your thoughts, your breathing, your calm, that's your domain. Here's what most men don't realize. When you send a message from stillness, not urgency, your words carry more weight. Even something as simple as, "How was your day?" feels different when it's not fueled by nervous energy. Women sense emotional rhythm. When your energy feels settled, she relaxes. When your energy feels desperate, she distances herself. Attraction isn't built through constant contact, it's built through emotional contrast. Space and timing are the unspoken parts of desire. You can't master communication until you've mastered reactivity. The Stoics trained themselves to detach from impulse, not to suppress emotion but to redirect it. That's what texting should be, a reflection of calm direction, not emotional chaos. Take this mindset before you text. Slow your breath. Observe what you're feeling, excitement, curiosity, fear, and let it settle. Only then decide what to say. That 30-second delay changes everything, because when your emotions settle, your tone shifts. Your words become lighter, more confident, more playful without effort. You stop trying to win her attention. You start sharing your presence. This isn't about playing hard to get, it's about being hard to shake. A man who masters himself radiates stability, even through a screen. That's what women feel drawn to. Think of every message like a mirror. It reflects your internal state. If you're calm, grounded, focused, she feels that. If you're restless, uncertain, reactive, she feels that too. That's why the best texts come from stillness, from peace, from intention, not impulse. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." The bravery he spoke of isn't just on the battlefield, it's in those small moments of restraint. The courage to wait before you act, to think before you speak, to let silence hold its power. Because in modern attraction, restraint is power. The man who doesn't rush to text her back immediately signals something deeper, that he values himself enough to stay in control of his time, his energy, his emotions. So before you reach for your phone tonight, remember, your message isn't just what you write. It's the energy you send with it. If you've ever waited, centered yourself, and felt your confidence rise instead of fade, write, "I move with control," below. Because next we'll talk about how humor, when used right, isn't about getting a laugh. It's about lowering her defenses and letting desire in. Number 9. Make her laugh, don't perform. There's a difference between being funny and being performative. A man who tries too hard to make her laugh usually ends up losing her respect, because deep down, humor without grounding feels like insecurity wearing a mask. The men who make women laugh effortlessly aren't comedians. They're comfortable. Let me tell you about Thomas, 57, from Atlanta. He met Elena, 52, through mutual friends at a dinner party. The room was filled with loud men competing for attention, trying to be the funniest, the most charming. Thomas barely said much, but when he did, it was quiet, offhand, and confident. At one point, someone spilled wine, and everyone jumped in to make jokes. Thomas just looked at Elena, smirked, and said, "Guess the wine wanted attention more than the rest of us." Simple, dry, but she laughed harder than she expected. Why? Because his humor wasn't forced. It was grounded. It wasn't a performance to win her over. It was a natural extension of his calm energy. That's the secret most men miss. You don't have to be funny, you just have to be at ease. Women don't fall for jokes. They fall for how you deliver them. Humor works best when it reveals confidence through contrast, when you stay calm while the world tries too hard. In psychology, this is called relaxed dominance. It's the state where your humor signals security, not need. You're not laughing to belong, you're laughing because you're free. That's what Elena saw in Thomas. His energy wasn't competing. It was steady, detached, almost stoic. And that calm made his jokes hit harder because they came from authenticity, not performance. The Stoics valued this exact balance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, If you are disturbed by something external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Humor at its root is that perspective. It's the ability to see life's imperfections without taking them personally. That's what makes Stoic humor powerful. It's not mockery or sarcasm. It's grace under absurdity. The ability to laugh with the world, not at it. Thomas told me later, I stopped trying to be the funniest guy in the room. I just started saying what I really thought lightly without trying to land it. That shift made every interaction easier. He didn't need to try to attract women anymore. They started gravitating toward his energy. See, when you perform, you give away power. You're asking for approval. But when you're naturally playful without chasing validation, you flip the dynamic. You become the relaxed observer in a world of overthinkers. That's what women find irresistible, that subtle self-assurance that says, I don't need to make you laugh, but I might anyway. Try this next time you're with a woman. Don't plan your jokes. Don't think about timing. Just listen, really listen, and let your humor come from presence, not preparation. When you're genuinely grounded, your natural wit surfaces. Even silence can be funny when it's delivered with the right expression, the right pause, the right confidence. Women don't want a clown. They want a man whose laughter feels like home, steady, warm, secure. Thomas and Elena are still together today, and she says the same thing to him even now. You make me laugh because you never try to. So remember this, humor doesn't create attraction, ease does. If you've ever made someone laugh just by being yourself, write, I stay light, below. Because next, we'll close this journey with something deeper, the foundation that holds everything together, purpose. The one thing no man can fake, and the one thing that makes all of this mean something. Number 10. Purpose is the most attractive thing you own. You can't fake purpose. You can't buy it, borrow it, or pretend you have it for long. Purpose is the invisible gravity that pulls people toward you, especially women. Because when a man knows why he moves, every word, every silence, every look carries weight. Most men chase approval. They drift from one goal to another, hoping relationships, money, or validation will fill the emptiness inside. But women can sense when a man's energy has no center. You might look confident, you might even sound strong, but if there's no direction behind it, she feels it. There's no pull. Now contrast that with a man who has purpose. He doesn't need to chase attention. His presence already commands it. Not because he demands respect, but because he embodies it. He's not reacting to life, he's directing it. That's what Stoicism teaches at its core. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. Purpose gives a man his worth. Not his looks, not his success, but the way he orients his life around something bigger than comfort. Purpose isn't about a career or a mission statement. It's about alignment. It's the quiet decision to move forward every day with integrity, even when no one's watching. When you have that, your energy changes. You speak slower, stand firmer, and stop over-explaining yourself. You stop needing people to understand you because you already understand yourself. And that kind of self-understanding is intoxicating. Women don't fall for men who make them their purpose. They fall for men who have a purpose that inspires them. The man who knows his path doesn't beg for attention. He invites her to walk beside him, not in front, not behind, but beside. Think of how purpose changes even your smallest actions. When you text, it's not to fill space, it's intentional. When you work, it's not to impress, it's to build. When you rest, it's not laziness, it's recovery. Every movement has reason. That consistency radiates strength. In psychology, this is called directional confidence. People feel drawn to someone whose actions consistently point in one direction, not because of what he says, but because his energy feels stable. Women pick up on that instinctively. It's biological. A man with purpose feels safe not because he's predictable, but because he's reliable. And when your life has direction, attraction becomes effortless. You don't chase chemistry, you create it through focus. You become a signal of clarity in a world full of noise. So if you ever feel lost, stop asking, what do women want? Start asking, what kind of man do I need to become? Because when your life is built on purpose, growth, discipline, peace, attraction takes care of itself. Your energy speaks before your words do. Seneca said, "To live is to serve, but only through wisdom." Live like that with reason, conviction, and control, and you'll never need to perform attraction again. You'll radiate it. Purpose is the final piece, the quiet fire that holds everything together, the thing that makes your presence linger even when you're gone. Because a man with purpose doesn't just attract a woman, he awakens her respect, and that lasts far longer than desire. Today we uncovered what truly makes a man unforgettable, not looks, not lines, but energy, the kind that comes from stillness, purpose, and control. We talked about presence, about leading yourself before leading anyone else. We explored calm as power, order as magnetism, humor without performance, and vulnerability without losing strength. And in the end, we came back to the foundation purpose, the quiet fire that shapes every move, every word, every silence. This is what Stoic masculinity looks like in the modern world. Discipline with warmth, mystery with direction, strength without noise. When you master that balance, attraction stops being something you chase. It becomes something you command. If you're ready to take this further, to turn Stoic philosophy into daily strength, confidence, and leadership, join the Stoic Men's Circle. It's where modern Stoic men refine their mindset, build composure, and master emotional discipline together. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next lesson on masculine power psychology and self-mastery. Thank you for watching. Stay grounded, stay intentional, and I'll see you tomorrow. They say women want a good man, a kind man, a man who listens, shows up, texts back fast, and always makes her feel wanted. But let me ask you something real. If that's true, why does the guy who barely tries end up haunting her mind? Why is it the quiet one? The one who doesn't chase, who never overshares, who looks at her like he's seen it all before. Why is he the one she can't stop thinking about? The truth, most women aren't addicted to attention. They're addicted to tension. And the man who knows how to withhold his words, his emotions, his presence is the one who makes her feel something no nice guy ever will. In this video, I'll show you exactly why that happens and how to become the man who doesn't need to try hard because his very presence already does all the work. This isn't about playing games. It's about mastering control. Stoic control. So if you're done being the man who gives too much and gets too little in return, hit subscribe now. Let's talk about why the man who acts like he's nothing becomes everything in her mind. Number 1. Stop proving yourself, let her wonder. You don't need to prove anything. That's the first truth most men never, harlot alone, believe. From the moment we're young, we're taught to win approval. Be nice, be impressive, get her attention, say something clever, make her laugh, show her you're the one. But the man who keeps trying to prove himself is already losing, because every time you try to show her how great you are, you're admitting without saying it that you're not sure. And if you're not sure, why should she be? Here's the thing. Women aren't drawn to the guy who lays all his cards on the table too soon. They're drawn to the man who leaves just enough mystery. The man who doesn't need to explain who he is. He knows. And his silence, his restraint says more than his words ever could. That kind of man doesn't chase. He doesn't convince. He lets the room come to him. And she will. Because when a woman meets a man who's not trying to impress her, it messes with her expectations. She's used to guys bending